Deep in the heart of the world's most hostile continent, a silent drama is unfolding. It's a story of impossible endurance, of an ancient biological code, one written to conquer ice and starvation. And for us, it all begins with a single haunting question.
You may have seen it, a moment captured in a 2007 documentary that has puzzled millions ever since. Alone, a Adelie penguin breaks from its colony, turns its back on the life-giving ocean, and just starts walking inland toward the vast, empty mountains of Antarctica.
Think about what that means. There is nothing for it there. Absolutely nothing. No food, no water, no colony, just thousands of kilometers of ice. It's a walk toward a slow, frozen end. A deliberate march away from everything that means survival.
The scientists who witnessed this, well, they called it a psychotic breakdown, a kind of glitch in the penguin's programming. But what if it's something more? To even begin to understand this single act of deviation, we have to first understand the brutal world that forged the rules it broke. See, Antarctica isn't just a home for these creatures. It's a fortress, a continent they chose not for its comfort, but for its magnificent, deadly security.
First, you have to try and wrap your head around the cold. It's not just a number, it's a constant, physical presence, a force so intense it can freeze exposed flesh in just a few seconds. This isn't an occasional cold snap, this is the baseline of existence here.
And if the cold itself wasn't enough, then there's the wind. These aren't normal winds. These are katabatic winds, dense, freezing air pulled downhill by gravity, scouring the landscape with the force of a hurricane. There's no shelter and there's no relief.
So you have to ask, right? Why on earth would any creature choose to live here? Well, the answer lies in a massive evolutionary trade-off. Penguins are flightless, vulnerable birds. On any other continent, land predators, bears, wolves, you name it, would decimate their colonies. So they chose the planet's harshest climate. They accepted the trial of ice to gain a sanctuary from teeth and claws. Here on land, they have no enemies but the cold itself.
Okay, so they made this incredible bargain. But how do they actually pull it off? Surviving here requires a whole set of biological technologies, perfected over millennia. It's like a hidden code that makes life possible in the impossible.
The first piece of that code is blubber. Now, this isn't just fat, it's a two-for-one deal. It's a thermal blanket, providing incredible insulation. And just as important, it's a fuel tank, the only energy reserve they have during the long, dark months of fasting.
Their first line of defense against that wind is a masterpiece of engineering, their feathers. The outer layer is a dense, overlapping shield, totally windproof and waterproof. But the real magic is underneath. A layer of downy tufts traps a cushion of air against the skin. And that trapped air, believe it or not, provides up to 84% of the bird's total insulation. It's not a coat, it's a suit of multi-layered armor.
But what about their bare feet, standing right there on the ice? This is where the code gets really elegant. It's a system called countercurrent exchange. The arteries carrying warm blood down to their feet are literally wrapped around the veins carrying cold blood back up. The heat transfers from the warm blood to the cold blood. It's a natural heat recycler, making sure precious warmth from their core isn't just lost to the frozen ground.
But for all of these incredible adaptations, the greatest challenge here isn't the cold, it's the emptiness. Take the male emperor penguin. He endures a fast of up to 120 days during the brutal winter, losing nearly half his body weight, all while protecting a single egg. This is a feat of metabolic mastery.
And this fast isn't just a slow starvation. It's a controlled three-phase process. First, there's a quick transition. Then comes the crucial second phase, where an astonishing 96% of their energy comes from their fat reserves. This preserves their muscle. But then, when the fat runs out, a critical alarm bell goes off. The body starts burning protein, triggering an overwhelming, desperate instinct. Get back to the sea to feed or die.
So how in the world do they make that fuel last so long? The secret is deep down at the molecular level. They can actually downregulate a specific protein in their cells. In plain English, this acts like a metabolic throttle. They can slow their body's idle speed by more than a third, essentially putting themselves into a low power mode to conserve every last drop of energy.
So, they've conquered the cold and they've mastered hunger. But none of that matters if you can't find your way. How do they navigate hundreds of kilometers of a featureless, shifting world of ice and ocean to return to the exact same spot year after year? It turns out they have an incredibly sophisticated internal GPS. And it's not just one thing. It's a whole integrated system. They use the sun as a compass, constantly corrected by a precise internal clock. There's also growing evidence that they can actually sense the Earth's magnetic fields, possibly even see them using special proteins in their eyes. On top of all that, they can sense and use ocean currents to save energy on those long swims.
And you have to understand, we're not just talking about finding their way back to the right continent. This system is so precise, it can guide a parent from a feeding ground hundreds of kilometers away back to one specific colony among many, and then help them find their single partner and chick among thousands, just by their unique call.
This entire suite of adaptations, this ancient code for survival, was written for a predictable world, a world of ice and cold and reliable seasons. But that world is now changing, and it's changing at a speed that evolution simply cannot match. The problem really is stark and simple. The Antarctic Peninsula, home to millions of these penguins, is warming faster than almost anywhere else on the planet. And this heat is forcing a dangerous change in their most fundamental rhythms.
And when you look at the data, it is staggering. In just 1 decade, gentoos advanced their breeding season by an average of 13 days. Adelies and chinstraps shifted by 10. That is the fastest change in breeding time ever recorded for any vertebrate on Earth.
So why is a 10-day shift such a big deal? Because their entire existence is built on perfect timing. The chicks are meant to hatch precisely when their main food source, krill, is at its peak. But with the breeding season shifting so fast, the chicks are now hatching too early. The food isn't ready for them. It's creating a potentially catastrophic mismatch in the food web.
And this change is creating some very clear winners and losers. The Gentoo penguin, which is a generalist that can eat krill or fish, is actually doing okay. It's expanding its range. But the specialists, the Adelie and chinstrap penguins, whose lives depend entirely on that ice-dependent krill, they are in sharp, significant decline. Which brings us all the way back to where we started, to that one solitary traveler, that penguin walking towards the mountains. What if its journey wasn't a psychotic breakdown at all? What if its internal compass, calibrated over thousands of years for a world of predictable ice and sun, was simply lost? Searching for cues and landmarks that have vanished. A search, not for death, but for a world that no longer exists.
The penguins of Antarctica are the ultimate survivors. They have a biological code perfected to conquer the most extreme environment on our planet. The final, urgent question now is this: can a code that was written over millions of years be rewritten in just a few decades to survive us?